Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to Paul's Monday Market Update number 177 for Monday, 17th of March, 2025. I hope you're all well. Hope you enjoyed the weekend. I hope that you're enjoying St. Patrick's Day. And talking of St. Patrick's Day, that is the reason there will be no VTP Stage 1 weekly coaching call this evening. I have another commitment. But anyway, for those of you joining us here in the room or on the YouTube channel, I'm hoping that you can hear my voice, hoping that you can see the slides as well. For those of you joining us for the first time, the Monday Market Update is just that. It is me flying through as much as I can cover in the next 30 minutes, looking at strength and weakness within FX, indices and commodities markets, looking at a few charts of interest of particular stocks or ETFs that I'm interested in, and then having a look at the live market. It is not a signal service. It is not a trade recommendation service. It's merely me just sharing what I'm looking at and whether that might be of useful insight to yourselves. As always, you're very welcome here. Just remember that you are responsible for your own trading decisions. As always, if you want some more education this afternoon, then you can join us for Active Trades Monday Market Matters webinar this afternoon, 2:00 London time, where I'll be talking about trading trend reversals as part of the educational piece there. You can either go onto their website and register there, or use that QR code, and that will take you to the spot to be able to register for them. And every Wednesday evening, 7:00 London time, basically I do a weekly update for Admiral Markets there, just looking at global markets, UK stocks, and currencies. Okay, all right. So let's dig into the main thrust of our session today. So if you're new to trading, or if you're new to join us, this is just parts of what I cut out from my own weekend model, the STAM, where every weekend I am just basically looking to identify where is the strength and where is the weakness within primarily FX markets, but also indices and commodities. And by doing so, that helps me start to allocate my time, energy, and resources more effectively and efficiently for the week ahead. So, what is this telling us? How does it help us? Let's get the old drawing tool up. So, we are into week 12 of the year here, as you can see, 17th of March. Where's the strength? Where's the weakness? No real shockers. Okay, Japanese yen remains okay, top of the pile. That will be interesting to see how that carries on by the end of this week. We've got a really big week for news. Okay, so we've got US retail sales this afternoon, some Canadian data tomorrow, but then Wednesday we've got the Bank of Japan, their policy rate meeting and statement. And whilst people aren't expecting a move or a cut, they will be keen to see what the trajectory is, or what the kind of sentiment is. We also have on Wednesday later on in the day, we've got the FOMC meeting there as well. And once again, people aren't expecting a cut, but they will of course want to see what Mr. Powell has got to say for himself. Then Thursday you have the Swiss franc, the Swiss National Bank. Okay, they have got their monetary policy meeting as well. People at the moment are expecting a cut from like 0.5% to 0.25%, and then at midday we have the Bank of England with their NPCs official bank rate meeting and vote. Once again, there we're not expecting a cut, but we are expecting, to sort of get a sense of the sentiment. So that is just the central bankers speaking. We've got a whole host of other stuff going on. So it's going to be an interesting week. Maybe we'll see some shifting sands by the end of this week once we've got that data out. But, as we are here today, Japanese yen remains top of the pile, with British sterling at the number 2. Okay, so as you've heard me bang on constantly, a lot of that British sterling strength is due to a sort of anti-US dollar sentiment, anti-Trump sentiment, but also the fact that the UK is out of the EU, and so we're unlikely to be hit by tariffs in the same way that the Europeans are, and such. And so that's kind of giving a little bit of boost to sterling. At the bottom of the pile, okay, Canadian dollar is still sat firmly on the bottom, as is Kiwi dollar, but we've had a little bit of a change there. Maybe we'll have a little look at that. Okay, we'll have a look at Kiwi dollar. We've not looked at there for a while. You can see certainly here, and when we look at since the market opened this week, okay, from last night, you can see that Kiwi dollars had a good start to the week. Okay, had a good end to last week, good start to this week. Partly that's partly US dollar Trump weakness, but also a bit of decent Chinese data as well over the weekend and this morning. So that, of course, has given Kiwi a bit of a bump. So we'll have a look at that later when we switch across to the live markets. When we look at the others, look at US dollar still languishing down in fifth. Okay, no real shocker there. Okay, so in terms of what we're seeing, we'll look at the dollar in a moment. Euro is kind of holding on to third place. I think we've got tomorrow. I think there's Germans are having a meeting about sort of or rather voting on the recent announcements about effectively their spending in terms of infrastructure and defence, etc. And I think if those votes go through no problem, then I think that will be very positive for the euro. If there is stumbling blocks, then that will have put a hiccup in the euro at the moment. Swiss franc, yeah, fair to middling there. Okay, as I said, maybe that will change. Okay, later this week, with another interest rate cut and what the sort of the message that goes along with that. And Aussie is it's the strongest of the commodities who have been the bottom of the pile. So no real major change since last week. But as I said, maybe because we've got so many central bankers speaking this week and a whole host of other data, maybe we'll get some shifting sands towards the end of this week. Certainly, look at that. When I look at the individual currencies there, okay, that's my euro and sterling pairs. They are all right. They are all effectively in buying environments, both sterling and euro. Okay, so that's giving me an indication of the strength there, okay, in sterling and euro there at this moment. Rightly or wrongly, it's there, so don't fight it. When we look at the kind of indices and commodities, well, what I'm seeing is all those American indexes are strategic sells at the moment. Now, that in itself might be sort of indicating a bottom. Certainly, we had Mr. Bessent over the weekend. Okay, the new sort of US Treasury Secretary talking about how corrections are good. He's trying to sort of deflate the bubble before it bursts. All right, so that's sort of given perhaps some explanation, some narrative to the recent moves, but we're going to look at that more in a moment when we switch across to the live markets. But that sort of American is also, if you look at that, okay, Nikkei and Aussie, all right, to the ASX, they are also strategic. They're strategic sells, as is oil. Okay, people are sort of worrying about if the global economy's taking a sneeze, well, that will have an impact upon demand. Silver, interestingly, remains a strategic buy, and certainly gold and silver, the price action in this last week have been interesting. We'll look at them in a moment. Bitcoin remains bearish. VIX also remains bearish. Okay, but I wonder if we will see whether we'll see those VIX numbers come down, whether we'll get sub 20 this week. If Bessent's words have sort of soothed the market, we'll look at that in a particular moment. So no major changes, but shifting sands. Okay, perhaps by the end of this week. So we will see how that plays out. Okay, so here we are, the charts of interest. This is just me adding a few charts of interest, okay, for stocks that I'm or particularly watching, or ETFs, that might be basically either giving me something that I want to add to my watch list, or alternatively helping explain a narrative and a story. And I don't profess to be a equity specialist, okay, but we can all look at a chart, we can all learn from it, we can all sort of see similar recurring patterns. This is DAL, this is the weekly chart of Delta Airlines. Now what I was interested in this, what I was interested in was, well, you can probably see the chart yourself already, is that that effectively even US Aviation has failed to dodge the bullet. Now that's my terrible pun, but you can see for yourself the way that price has played out. And what I was reading at the weekend, which I found fascinating, is that the kind of impact upon DOGE upon government departments has meant that effectively government departments are flying 50% less than they were even just a couple of months ago. So, of course, that is having an impact on airlines and aviation in the US. And so you can see for yourself here, okay, from having here, let's bring up the old drawing too, from having sort of, tickled the soft underbelly of $70 at the start of this year, last week, okay, we ended up trading down here and closing, all right, okay, at about $46.75 there, okay. So that's some slump over the last few weeks. So it's Delta Airlines. I have a soft spot for Delta Airlines because when I was 18 years old, I went to America and did summer camp. I sort of worked at an American summer camp, and then afterwards I paid $250, and that gave me 30 days of unlimited flying around around America on Delta Airlines and stuff. So and it was fantastic for an 18-year-old lad. So I've always had a soft spot for Delta Airlines in let's say in an industry sector where not many people have any real love for American Airlines at all in terms of their the experience they have in them. But surely you can see that is effectively that's a pretty miserable return, and it is like one of those kind of like second and third order levels of consequence that you see when a particular decision's made, how that particularly plays out. And so that's absolutely hammering. Okay, that's hammering that. And then on top of that, you've got, as I said, of course, people's concerns about the economy, which is naturally going to have an impact on airlines as well. The same goes for United Airlines as well. You can see that they all kind of topped out at the sort of end of last year, start of this year. Okay, look at that, $116 there, and last week we traded down and closed at 73.67. Interestingly, we bounced off the weekly 50-period moving average. We're going to have a look at that in more detail, okay, when we switch across to the live charts in a moment. But you can see the way that price, that has just literally fallen its way down, and that is probably an indication of, as I said, the impact that DOGE is having, but also also people's concerns about the economy. Okay, that has just accelerated it there, and it has just been a delightful move. Now, as I said, I'm going to probably watch to see, does the 50 hold? All right, does the 50 hold as support? If it does, well, then it would not surprise me for us to sort of bounce back up towards 90. But if it doesn't, well, then you're looking down towards that kind of back into this range here between about $40 and $56. All right, so it could be a real, having put in a great trend there, that would be quite a removal. So as I said, I'll be watching this over the next few sessions to see how it treats that weekly 50-period moving average. And this is played out, okay? You could look at all of those. You could look at those two and more American Airlines, and, you'd see a pretty similar picture. And we also see the same in Jets. This is Jets, which is the US Global Aviation ETF, okay? Appropriate name. And, it looks pretty similar towards what we've just seen there with Delta and United Airlines, isn't it? We've just we had a strong run there, okay, for let's say the final quarter of 2024. Peaked out here at $27 there, all right, and it's just, look at that. We are trading there. We closed, what's that, about 21.65 last week there, closed beneath the 50. All right, see how the previous United had bounced off the 50, Jet closed beneath the 50. That would be interesting. So my natural inclination would be that actually this week we would probably like to come back up and test that. We actually gapped down there. Okay, looks like we gapped down there. So I wonder whether maybe we kind of just have a little bit of a dead cat bounce, okay, up into that area, and then we have to see whether we drift our way back down to the big round number at 20, where the sort of weekly 200 is holding. So that's a scenario I would be looking at there for Jets, and we'll be able to see that by the big players in terms of the markets there. But it's not just the airlines themselves that have taken a bit of a hit. My old perennial favorite, Boeing. Okay, that has actually had a little bit of a slide there, as you can see, over the last couple of weeks. Although last week, we bounced off that big round number, $150. We had a little bit of a bounce, but you can see for yourself, okay, having sort of tried to sort of pull itself up from that 150 area there, okay, in the last quarter of the year, you can see that in itself having once again, just tickled the soft underbelly of $190. We fell all the way back down to 150. And we had a little bit of a dead cat bounce there. Okay, so we're going to have to wait and see how that particularly plays out. All right, I think watch Jets, watch this, watch some of those American airlines to see how they respond. Okay, to Besant's comments, whether Besant's comments have allayed fears in the market, right? And so people start buying again. Or whether by the end of this week we are in this case sort of falling back down to 150 if his words have not been enough to allay fear. So it's going to be an interesting week, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see that. So we have, there we've just had a look at aviation, but it's not just aviation that's troubling. This is CCL Carnival, all right? Carnival, the cruise line, okay? So cruise line company. Well, for those of you who remember going back, I started this in during the time of lockdown in .com, which is effectively almost like it's 5 years, isn't it? March, it's 5 years, and the share price of Carnival it collapsed, absolutely collapsed and stuff. You can go back and take a look at that yourself. And here we even see lows of a few years ago here, okay, around about sort of $7 there. But slowly but surely, it kind of ground its way up. All right, I wouldn't exactly say it's the most beautiful of trends, but it has ground its way up, and like most of these companies, had a good sort of second half of 2024, but then basically peaked its way out just under $29. And look at last week, the last couple of weeks, these kind of, I'd say, it's not just aviation that's been hit by DOGE. I think those kind of people's worries about the economy, you can see even into cruise lines. Okay, if you feel like the economy's struggling a bit, are you going to be going out splashing on expensive cruises? My suggestion would be no, but I'm sure other people would differ. But you can see from 29, okay, at the start of the year, we're here at 20. And once again, just look at it, you've got the big round number of 20 there. You've also got the weekly 50. See how it's kind of provided a bit of dynamic support there. So the thing is to see this week, does this actually provide us with support? Because on Friday, before the open on Friday, Carnival have their earnings. Okay, so as I said, might be one to just take a watch on this week. And there are a few earnings going on this week, not as big as some of the others, but there's still, you've got Micron, Nike, FedEx, etc. So there's still some interesting companies to take a look at there. But as I said, just watch how this is basically playing out around the 50 period moving average. Does it continue to act as support? Okay. Does 20, big round number 20, continue to act as support? Okay, in which case I think we get a relief rally up to about 23, and that's one scenario. Or if those numbers are poor, well, I'd say we're down to about 17, down to that weekly 200. So, as I said, you might just want to add that to your watch list and see how that particularly plays out. Okay, so that's the end of charts of interest. Bear with me for a moment. What we'll do is we'll switch across to the live markets and see what they're telling us. So just bear with us for a moment, and let's switch across. It's just bang. Okay, so what we've got here is actually, this is on the dollar, but I'm going to go to the indices first. Okay, let's start with the indices, because I think that leads on from what our conversation we just had, and also what I was talking about last week. So I just said about how Carnival, how United Airlines, how Jets and stuff had all been interacting around their weekly 50 period moving average. For those of you who joined us last week, this is what I was talking last week. If you remember last week, that I was talking about what was the weekly 50 period moving average for the major US indices going to act as support. So this is one of my indices profiles here. I'm hoping you can, hoping sure you'll be able to see it. So I've got Dow, NASDAQ, S&P 500, Russell, and you can see last week, okay, on the weekly chart, we actually we sliced through it and closed beneath it on the Dow. We did the same, okay, we stayed beneath it on the NASDAQ. On the S&P, we went down beneath the 50. We'd already gone beneath 50 on the Russell. The Russell's kind of leading us lower. And actually what happened last week is we went down to the 200. So My natural inclination is, we get a relief rally, okay, up to the 50. That would be my kind of, relief rally up to the 50, okay, in terms of maybe not the 50 in this case is a fair minute, but a relief rally in those US indices, all right, best sense words, maybe, as I said, again, it might have calmed the markets a little bit, all right, and maybe we'll see basically that pump up towards there, okay, as one scenario. Of course, the question is, if we get up there, well, what does it do? When it gets there, and that's where that's where I would basically go down into the lower timeframes and see how does the market react. Okay, now of course, maybe a nice little relief rally, over the next couple of days in front of FOMC on Wednesday evening might be, a nice scenario to consider. And then we're in the realms of what Mr. Powell has got to say and whether he basically pumps the market or basically just underwhelms the market. We shall see. But as I said last week, we were looking at the 50, and you can see for the indexes for these for Dow, Nasdaq, and S&P, we actually went through it on the weekly and closed beneath it. Okay, so that's not terribly bullish, but it's no surprise that if we get a relief rally, okay, onto just at that particular 50 area. Okay, if we look at some of the other indexes close to home, well, the DAX continues to work its way up. Last week it wasn't an inside bar bullish pin bar, but it was there, having rolled its way down a bit. It pumped its way up. It's a long way from the 50 there. Let's just get up here we go. The Nikkei has already gone through. The Nikkei has already gone through the 50, and it continues to sort of drift its way down. Close to home, FTSE, we had a bit of a sell off there, but the buyers stepped in to pump it up. Okay, if I go down to the daily chart, look what it did. It gapped down and closed beneath the 50 on the daily, but actually managed to work its way up. The 20 is holding it in there at the moment. So for me, if I'm going to see bullish FTSE, I effectively need to see it back up above the daily 20 and holding above there. Okay, that would be bullish to me, and we'll see how that particularly plays out. We've got, I think, Rachel Reeves has got some fantastic plan for growth. I'm led to believe. Okay, and she's meeting with people to hack away at regulation. Good luck with that. And then, of course, people will be interested to see what Mr. Bailey's got to say on Thursday. Okay, even if the interest rates are held, people are going to be interested to hear what he's got to say about the state of the economy. So we might be a little bit quiet at the early start of this week, as people wait to see what unfolds later on in the week as we go. Of course, let's look at some commodities. Gold. This is one where I have to hold my hands up. I got this wrong. How did I get it wrong? I thought this is weekly chart. I thought we might pivot around 2,900 until after FOMC. Looking at the daily chart here, looking at last week, I thought, what, we might just basically hold around this, pivot around 2,900 until this big week's out of the way. But of course, the anxiety, you can just tell by the anxiety markets. Look at where it went last week. Okay, so I got that wrong. I thought it would hold, but bang, anxiety. Fear reigns. All right, that's the thing. That's people's concerns, isn't it? That is people's concerns. So they're buying gold, and that's what's happened. Has taken us up to 3,000. Okay, that's the place where we are. We're gonna have to draw that in. Okay, that's the nature of the beast in that sense. So let's bang. Now, of course, you're going to sort of see, well, all right, as you can see for yourself on the daily chart, we've been up touching it even today. All right, it is what's that going to do? Are we just going to basically pump above it and hold above it? That is immensely bullish. Or is there a lot of people who bought at 2,900? A lot of traders bought 2,900, probably taking profits at 3,000, having enjoyed that kind of last week's little run. We shall have to wait and see on that. Interestingly, even though gold pumped, probably in some respects, silver had a bigger move, I would suggest. Okay, this is weekly silver. I had a tactical short on it here a couple of weeks back to the 20, but you can see the last couple of weeks, even more so, I'd suggest in gold. It really has just reversed and pulled its way up there. Okay, and now I'm looking at I'm looking at those kind of recent highs there at here we go. Oops. playing. These recent highs for 2024. Okay, so what was that? About 34.84. Yeah, 34.84 and stuff. 34.85. I would be looking at that now. Is okay. Is that going to be like a magnet? Is it just going to draw us up towards there? So yeah. So silver has clearly from that double bottom at the end of last year, it has just ground its way up there. It's above the 20. It's above the 50. It's above the 200, and it is just basically making higher highs and higher lows as it grinds its way north. And that's the nature of the beast. As I said, VIX. Just quickly, I don't really talk about the VIX much, but this is the daily chart. Okay, daily chart of the VIX. We had pumped the way up to 25. All right, you can see that and reversed, and actually, we're starting to drift away back down. And as I said, if we are back beneath 20 by the end of this week, that will give us an indication that markets have calmed down a little bit. If by the end of the week we're back up above 25, well, that's not so good, shall we say? That is not so good. All right, so that was them. Let's have a look at. We'll have a look at dollar. We'll have a look at Kiwi and sterling. Okay, we might overrun a couple of minutes, but as I said, there's always lots going on for us to share with you. So plenty for us to talk about and help you with. All right, come on. I've got so many packages running these days and stuff. There we go. All right, so this is my dollar profile here. Bring up the old drawing tool. All right, Aussie dollar, Kiwi dollar, Euro dollar, dollar CAD, pound dollar, dollar yen, dollar Swiss, dollar index. Okay, so let us, as always, us start with the dollar index. What the scores and the does? I need to just update that now as well. I think that's get of this chart here. You can see that dollar has been weak, hasn't it? Dollar has weakened and weakened and weakened, and that's what we're looking at there. Here we go and stuff. That's what we've all been particularly that has been particularly clear. That kind of that US weakness has just or US dollar weakness has just basically been running just continued strongly and strongly last couple of weeks. What you might sort of be saying is that last week we had a little bit of a delay. That isn't a massive shock if we look at that on the daily chart there and the way that that's particularly played its way out there. It hasn't really kind of it's too early for me to say that's an absolute bottom there, but I would be just worrying about, well, I would just be basically holding fire at the moment, okay, just to wait till we see till we sort of see the particular moves. There we go. So that's the June contract, okay, and of course, we had a little bit of pullback. There's a little bit of a swing bottom there, but just because there's a swing bottom there, a fractal bottom, doesn't mean I start buying back up to the 200 or what have you. I would need to see exactly how we start this particular week. Okay, what is it looking to sort of show for us? Okay, so I'll be wearing that. So we've still got that dollar weakness. All right, dollar weakness is still the main story. Okay, and that maybe that will change by the end of this week with the FOMC and also Bank of Japan. We're gonna have to wait and see how that particularly plays out. All right, let us go to, as I said, let's go to Kiwi dollar. We don't really look at Kiwi dollar a great deal, but what I wanted to look at is, as I said, Kiwi dollar has been bottom of the STAM, all right, for months and months. But as I keep telling traders, when you're at the bottom of the pile, the only way is up. When you're at the top of the pile, the only way is down. If we look here, okay, this is Kiwi against dollar, 4-hour chart. Okay, from the middle of last week, you can see that's been pretty strong Kiwi dollar, hasn't it? Okay, even against Japanese yen. So remember, Japanese yen's top of the STAM, but it has weakened against the Kiwi. The euro dollar, okay, euro, which has been in position 3 in the STAM, that has weakened against Kiwi dollar. Aussie has weakened against Kiwi dollar. Pound, which is number 2, has weakened against Kiwi dollar. Kiwi dollar strengthened against Canadian dollar, and it's strengthened against the Swiss franc. So, as I said, some of that is anti-dollar Trump. Some of that is, better, a little bit of Chinese news, bit of Chinese stimulus that we're talking about in terms of trying to get more people to consumption, consume more, and how that is particularly looking to play out there in those charts. So this might be something, when I see it move like that across all of the major indexes or major currencies, sorry, well then you basically want to take that on board and start to have a look and start to go a little bit deep in terms of seeing is this a bit of a bottom in Kiwi that we are starting to see. Let's quickly finish with sterling. All right, so I'll bring that up. So as I said, dollar's weak, so we're still seeing pound against dollar. Okay, still working its way up. I think I think we kind of drift our way up to 130. It's such a big round number. But even the last couple of weeks, even if we look at this here, this is pound against Japanese yen. All right, all the lows are higher. Okay, we are. I thought we would drift our way, continue to drift our way lower, but we haven't. The lows are higher. Okay, that's a little bit of yen weakness, a bit of sterling strength going on there. What we had seen pound against Aussie strength, but look at last week. Okay, bit of a it's a bit of a reversal pin. Same against Canadian dollar. Look at that. Okay, on the weekly chart and on pound New Zealand dollar, which we've just looked at. There's a bit of New Zealand dollar strength, and so maybe is this a case of that? That kind of that risk off that we'd seen is maybe turning, and in fact, actually, maybe we're going to see a little bit of Comdol risk on. Okay, if there's a bit of China good news, maybe we'll see that. As always, pound Swiss franc is doing my head in. All right, you can see how last week, if you look at that, that is the strongest weekly close for months. All right, okay, for over 6 months there. All right. When I look at the daily chart, we pumped up, we came back, we put in another, it is grinding its way higher. All right, it's above the 20, it's above the 50, but there's lots of wicks to the downside. And really, I would be very wary of trading this week based upon, you've got both the Swiss National Bank and the Bank of England on Thursday. And so I suspect there will be shenanigans before that. How do we work with euro sterling? Just to finish us off, euro sterling on the weekly chart. You've heard me going on about it. Scrappy downtrend, but the 50 period, weekly 50 period moving average has acted as really nice resistance. Look at last week's, okay? We popped up there, we closed beneath it. This week, we've kind of ground our way up a little bit at the start of this week. All right, if we go into the 4-hourly chart, the 4-hourly 50s acted there, okay? And we're at 84 again. All right, 84. Okay, that's the level that we seem to love in euro sterling. Okay, so I would be interested to see, if you think about it, for what can happen with basically those German votes tomorrow and Bank of England on Thursday, that could have an indication of where we go from here in euro sterling. Okay, if we drop lower, well, there's sterling strength and euro weakness. If we kind of if we finally break this weekly 50, which if you look over the last 15 months, we've struggled to do, haven't we? If we get above and hold above it, well, for me, then it drifts towards about 85.50, the weekly 200. But we're at an inflection point here, so I'll be watching this week. Okay, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's draw it to a close. Apologies that overran just a little bit, but there's always so much going on that I want to share with you. I hope you found that useful. I hope that's given you a little bit of help and a little bit of insight into the markets. As I said, for those of you on BTP, there's no stage 1 call tonight, but there will be a stage 2 call tomorrow. For the rest of you, I hope you have a great trading week. There is a lot going on this week, so make sure you're on top of the news flow. Make sure you're on top of your analysis and make sure you're on top of your risk management. Have a fabulous trading week, everybody, and I will speak to you soon. Take care, everybody. Cheers.